It is Tuesday, May 7th, 2019. I am here with my interviewee and father, Ben Buskell, and I'm going to interview him now. Okay, so what were some of your dreams as a kid? Like, what did you want to do?
As a child growing up, I came from a military family, and I idolized my father to the point to where I believed he walked on water. And although my father was not in my life from the age of 7 to 17, so there was a 10-year area that he wasn't there, I always believed that I would grow up and join the military just like he did. I'd wear camouflage, I'd have army boots, I'd keep them shined, I learned how to shoot a gun, take it apart, clean it, hunt, camouflage myself. All my little hillbilly friends were into the same stuff, and so I learned how to hunt really good, because I figure if I can sneak up on animals, I could sure as hell sneak up on a person, right? So, I assumed as a child growing up that I would spend my life as a career in the military for sure.
So would you consider him to be a person that you look up to? Or looked up to?
Oh, I absolutely looked up to him. I idolized him to death. When your dad's in a service, he goes away a lot. And you're told that he's doing brave things for the good of the country. And he leaves and he's gone for months, and then when he comes back, it's like a big celebration each and every time he stepped foot off. And I was a little kid, and I can remember all the families gathering when that submarine pulls into port, and everybody gets to see their dad that they haven't seen for 3 months, and that's a big deal to a little kid. Yeah. So I absolutely idolized him.
Was there anyone else that you looked up to, or like even look up to now?
Yeah, there's so as I grew up as a child, like I said, from the ages of 7 to 17, I never got to see my father, right? Never spoke to him, not a birthday card, not a phone call, not even a whisper through the grapevine as of what's happened to him or where he's at. But my mother remarried, and she married a guy named George Seitz, and he was a New York City police officer for 29 years. And when he retired, he moved to Texas, and that's where my parents met. And he was the first man that I ever respected. He was 6'4". He could palm my head like a basketball with his hand. I mean, he was just a huge, massive, giant man. But he was as kind and gentle as he was big. But don't step sideways on him, because his gentleness was his mercy. Right? Because if he wanted to snatch you up, and he could, he could put a crowd of people on the ground, not just one person. He could take them all down. And I knew that, and the fact that he was still so kind and merciful with us little badass kids, that taught me true strength. True strength is a man who's strong, who doesn't have to use it or abuse it or show other people how bad he is, how strong he is. Those men that are truly strong, you only see it only when it's necessary. And then it's put back in a box when it's not. And he was firm with us boys when he had to be, but then when he didn't, he was as kind a gentle man as any man could ever hope to become. And that is, to this day, and I'm 47 years old. To this day, I have not met a greater man on earth than George Seitz, for sure.
So, I know your dad wasn't in your life a lot when you were a kid, but, like, tell me about your life, like, growing up. Like, what was your household like, and how was your family life and stuff?
Okay, well, change was a constant. Nothing ever stayed the same in our household. So in between different stepfathers, then we moved a lot. We moved at least once a year, sometimes twice in a year. There's been times where we've moved into a house and been there 3 months and then moved again.
Yeah.
So change was constant. Fortunately, we kind of roamed around the same one great big area. So we stayed in Texas most of the time, but we would roam from these little small towns with 200 or 300 people to maybe another small town with 200 or 300 people. There's been a few times where we lived in Dallas for a little while, and I was a really small child. Of course, we lived in the ghettos of Dallas, and my older siblings remember that very well. I have small memories of being there, but most of the memory I have growing up as a child has always been in a rural area. And always a real small frame house, nothing real fancy. And, but yeah, change was constant. So from the time I got to the 10th grade, I had gone to 13 different schools, but I only count those schools one time because I might have gone to that school, moved away, and moved to another place, and then moved back to that area and gone to that school again. So although I'd only gone to 13 different schools by the time I was in 10th grade, some of those schools I had gone to 2 or 3 times. So I might have actually changed schools, 17, 18 times in those 10 years. So, which that kind of change, it taught me one thing. It taught me to how to get along with people and how to make friends. Because when you move like that and you uproot, you better learn how to make friends, because else you're going to be pretty lonely. So it taught me how to do that, and it taught me how to read people. It taught me how to read people very well, and it gave me a strong life skill as far as that goes. And to this day, I can still read people pretty well. I can tell when I'm around unsafe people and when I'm around pretty comfortable people. And but yeah, so that was that.
Did you have any fears as a kid?
Well, yeah, the one constant fear as a child that I always kind of carried with me was a fear of not being accepted. Because every time you move, you go to a new place, they're either going to like you or they're not. And when you're poor and you can't buy the clothes to fit in, and you can't get the haircuts, and you don't have the nice car, and you can't invite kids over to your house to play with your cool toys, it does make it difficult to fit in. And so being accepted was a constant grinding fear that you had each and every time that you moved. Because sometimes you did fit in and you found a really good group of friends, and it broke your heart to have to leave them. Other times you moved into the pit of hell and you got your ass beat all the time. you know. And if you weren't fighting, you were afraid that you were going to have to fight.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think that's worse than the actual fight, because at least you get it done and it's over.
Mm-hmm.
It's the haunting of it that really tears you up. You know, it's the it could happen, or I know it's going to happen. That kind of stuff is probably the most worrisome. So, yeah, if I had to say I had one fear, it would be being accepted, and, you know, being able to know that I'd be comfortable around the people that I was with, and where I was at. Yeah.
Let's see here. How do you think that your family's past affected you? How, like how you are?
What, like how I was raised? Like,
Yeah, or like your mindset and stuff.
um, well, sure, and I think that's for everybody. I think who we become comes from two things: where we live and how we're raised.
Yeah.
I believe that it's not just nature or nurture; it's obviously both. And the fact that I was raised in rural Texas, that puts me around a certain type of people, you know, especially in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
And most of them are very down to earth, simple people that have to work hard for everything that they ever had. So respect is a big thing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
If you got to work 10 times harder to own a nice truck than somebody else, you're really going to take care of that, and you're going to respect that. And he's going to demand that when you get in it, you clean your damn feet off before you get in his truck.
Yeah.
You know, so, but yeah, so I think that I learned definitely to respect people's property and people's things, because once you got older, you understood how hard they had to work for it.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I also learned in that environment, because everybody had to work so hard for anything that they had, sharing was a very important thing.
Yeah.
That wasn't done frivolously. You know, when someone shared something with you, you could take it to heart, because that's how they meant it. And so when they invite you to sit down and have dinner with them, that was a big thing, you know, because not everybody's got food to just give away. So when folks would do things like that and share with you, that was a strong level of acceptance. I knew that they cared for me, they accepted me, because they were willing to share what little that they had with me. And it also taught me how to share too. How that because there's always times where we have some and someone else doesn't, and typically it seems like everybody else has more than you will. But there will be times where you are on the long end of that stick, and it's important that you remember that all those that had helped you. And so I looked forward to being able to give back, because it was so rare that I ever had anything to share. Extremely rare. So when I did have something to share, I couldn't wait to share it. And that continues with me today. 47 years old. I work very hard, but everything that I have and everything that I own is so that I can share it. If you notice, there's very little in my life that I call my own. I mean, I could literally take every possession I own and fit it into the back of a car. You know, if you look around this house, there ain't nothing in this house that I claim to be mine, except maybe that water filter over there that I love so much.
Yeah.
So other than my clothes and my personal belongings, I really don't own anything, because I don't care to. My idea of wealth as far as physical wealth, is to share it, right? There's not much I truly want in this life. But real wealth, that I have, excuse me, that I have a lot of.
Yeah.
Real wealth, and real wealth is what you can take with you when you leave here. When you leave this earth and your body goes into the ground and you're off this plane, there are some things that you get to take with you. And those are your thoughts, your honor, your dignity, your love. Those things are eternal. Those things last forever. And once you have them, nobody can take it away from you.
Yeah.
I mean, someone could give you $1 million and they could rob you from the house to the parking lot and take that money from you. But true wealth can never be taken from you. Once you own it, it is yours forever. And so that's kind of where I look to invest my time and energy, is in true wealth. And I get a lot of that true wealth by giving away the physical wealth that I have here. Because when you can take care of others and you can love them and protect them and do for them, that creates a bond between you and those people. And that bond not only between you and them, but it helps them create those bonds with other people.
Yeah.
And then that makes us all wealthy, doesn't it?
Okay, so since we've gone over time a little bit, if you could just give some like small little bit of advice for like things that you should remember as you get older, and things that you've learned are important to remember.
Things that I've learned that are important to remember. One, not everyone thinks the way that you do. So you need to be aware of that. You know, we like to think that common sense is common. It's not. Not everyone thinks the way that you do. So you need to keep that in mind when you see someone who's dressed completely outrageous and you know, and has an orange mohawk. That doesn't make them a bad person. It just makes them different because they think differently than you. The other thing I would say is remember that you can be as big of a pain in the ass to other people as other people are to you. And keeping that in mind helps you to forgive other people when they're being a pain in the ass. And it also helps you to recognize when you're being a pain in the ass. And helps you to be more considerate to others. And the other thing I would say is don't be selfish. The more you give in this world, the more you'll get out of it. This world is not about whoever dies with the most toys wins. This world is about whoever leads with their heart the strongest wins. You know, when you're a loved man and at your funeral you have all sorts of people around there with broken hearts, you know you've done well. And if you don't live that kind of life and you're rich and that whoever dies with the most toys wins at your funeral, oh, there'll be lots of people there, but they're already counting your money in their head, what they're going to get, you know. And I'd say the greatest thing that I could tell any young person is a lot of people get the idea that if I can have this or if I can do that, then I'll be happy, right? Like happy is a destination that you can reach. Happy is not a destination that you can reach. It is only a state of mind. Life is about problems. It's not about avoiding problems. It's not about not having problems. It's not about creating a situation in your life to where you have less problems.
Mm-hmm.
You will always have problems. The rich have problems, the poor have problems. They might be different problems, but their problems still the same, and they affect both of those people the same way.
Mm-hmm.
The trick is how you deal with your problems.
Yeah.
And that would be the biggest gift that I could give to any human being, is to understand. The sooner you understand that it's about how you deal with problems, not avoiding them, not escaping them, not getting away from them, but dealing with them, that's where your happiness lies. Because if you can deal with whatever life gives you,
Mm-hmm.
then how many problems do you really have?
That's truth.
But if you can't deal with problems,
Mm-hmm.
there ain't enough money in the world to protect you from life's problems.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's just a matter of your perception.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like right now, like we don't think dinner's a very big deal. You know, if you get a crappy dinner, you're like, dinner tonight sucked, but, you know, oh well, no
Mm-hmm.
big deal. Tomorrow dinner will be good.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're a prisoner in a third world country,
Mm-hmm.
dinner's very important to you.
Yeah.
It's the world to you. It's just a matter of priority.
Yeah.
But you know what? That prisoner ain't got to worry about, does the guy in the cell next to me like me because he's after my money?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
there's different problems, but they're all problems.
Yeah.
It's just your ability to deal with them.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be my big advice. Learn how to deal with your problems. Because if you do, then you don't really have problems, do you? Because if you can handle it and deal with it, they go away.
Okay, cool. Thank you for your time, Dad.
You're welcome, darling. Hope you get an A.